Welcome to the deep dive. So, if you're jumping into UEFN Unreal Editor for Fortnite, you're probably buzzing with ideas, right?
Oh, absolutely. The potential in there is just massive.
It really is, but, turning those big ideas into something real, something polished and playable, especially in a platform that's always changing, well, that can feel like a bit of a mountain to climb.
Definitely. And that's exactly where having a good handle on project management comes in. It's kind of your secret weapon.
Secret weapon, I like that. It's not about killing the creativity, is it?
Not at all. It's more about giving it structure,
Yeah.
a way to channel all that energy, navigate the bumps you will hit, and actually get your game made successfully.
Right. So for this deep dive, we've sort of pulled together insights from standard project management stuff, but also importantly from how game devs actually work, tailoring it all for UFN.
Yeah, making it practical.
Exactly. The mission here is pretty simple. Give you, if you're new to UAFN, a solid grounding in these project management basics. We want to give you tools, strategy you can actually use to streamline things, right from that first idea all the way to getting it out there in Fortnite.
hmm
Okay, so where do we even start thinking about managing a UFM project? It feels like it could be chaos.
Well, a good place to start is with a basic structure. It might sound a bit formal at first, but honestly, it helps create a mental map. We're talking about the 5 basic phases of project management.
5 phases. Okay.
Mhm.
Are these like rigid steps you have to follow?
Not really,
Yeah.
especially not in game dev, and definitely not in something as fluid as UAFN. Think of them more like key stages you'll probably cycle through, maybe even jump between sometimes.
Gotcha. More like landmarks than a strict sequence. So what are they?
Okay, so you've got initiation, then planning, execution, and control. That's a big one. And finally, closure.
Initiation, planning, execution and control, closure. Got it.
Yeah. Let's maybe walk through each one and see how it maps onto actually building something in UEFN.
Perfect. So initiation. That sounds like the spark, right? The idea phase.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
That's where you define the project, but at a high level. So for UEFN, this is your game concept taking its first fuzzy shape. What's the core idea? What's the feeling you're going for?
Okay.
And crucially, what's the scope? You start thinking what's in the game, and just as importantly, what's out. Helps fight off that scope creep later.
Ah, the dreaded scope creep. We've all been there.
How about we just? And you also start thinking about stakeholders.
Stakeholders. Now, if I'm just messing around on my own, who are my stakeholders? Is it just me?
Well, you're the main one, for sure.
Hmm.
But think a bit wider. Who are you making this for? Potential players. Anyone you might show early versions to for feedback, maybe future collaborators. They're all stakeholders in a way.
Okay, that makes sense. Players as stakeholders.
Yeah. And people talk about a project charter here. Now,
Yeah.
for a solo UEFN dev, this doesn't need to be some 50-page legal doc. It could just be, a page or two outlining the game's purpose, the main features you're aiming for initially, and who's involved, even if it's just you wearing all the hats.
Right. Just getting those initial, maybe kind of jumbled thoughts down somewhere helps. Okay, so that's initiation. Next is planning. This sounds more involved, getting into the details.
Exactly. Planning is where you build the roadmap. You take that high-level idea from initiation and you flesh it out, really define that creative vision.
How so?
Well, what's the core gameplay loop? What's going to keep people playing? Who exactly in the Fortnite universe are you trying to reach? And what makes your island special? The unique selling point.
Mhm.
This is where setting really clear project goals is vital. You know that principle in game design about clear goals and immediate feedback for players?
Yeah, it keeps things engaging.
Apply that to your own development process too.
Yep.
Set clear goals for yourself.
So instead of just make a cool map, it's more like create a 1v1 build fight map with optimized performance and 3 unique points of interest.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Much more concrete. And from that kind of vision, you can get into the more, let's say, structured planning bits, like the CSSQ framework.
CSSQ, what's that stand for?
Scope, schedule, quality plan, and budget.
Okay, break that down for UAFN.
Sure. Scope is defining the size, complexity, features of your island. Schedule is your timeline. Even a rough estimate helps keep you honest. Quality plan is about the standards you're aiming for, how polished should the visuals be, how smooth the gameplay.
Right. And budget. For most UAFN creators, that's mainly time, right? Not necessarily cash.
Mostly time and effort, yeah. But time is your budget, and it's super important to think about it that way.
Yeah.
How much effort will scripting this mechanic take versus building that environment? Knowing that helps you allocate your time, your budget effectively.
Good point. Unless you're buying assets, maybe.
Exactly, then real money comes into it. But this planning phase is also absolutely the time to think about risks.
Like realizing halfway through that verse can't quite do what you hoped, or a Fortnite update breaks your main mechanic.
Exactly, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
A simple risk management worksheet can be gold here. Just brainstorm potential roadblocks, technical limits in UEFN, performance hits, maybe getting stuck on learning a new feature, Fortnite updates messing things up.
Okay, can get ahead.
Yeah, and if you think about them up front, you can maybe figure out backup plans or ways around them.
Right.
Also, if you're working with anyone else, even just bouncing ideas off a friend, a basic communications plan helps. How will you keep each other updated?
Makes sense.
And finally, setting a time and cost baseline. Basically, your initial best guess for how long things will take and the effort involved gives you something to measure against later.
Okay, wow. Planning sounds like a lot, but I can see how doing that groundwork saves headaches later. So, what's next? We've planned, now we build.
Now we build.
Mm-hmm.
This is execution and control, usually the longest phase, where the actual creation happens. You're using all those plans you made. It often helps to have a sort of kickoff moment. Even if you're solo, just review your plan. Make sure you're clear on the goals before you dive into the editor.
And this is where things inevitably go off script, I imagine. The unanticipated events you mentioned.
Oh, absolutely. Game development is never a straight line. Bugs pop up, Fortnite gets an update that changes things, you get a brilliant new idea you have to add.
Guilty as charged on that last one.
Aren't we all? That's why a change control process is so important, even for just you. It's how you manage that scope creep, that cool new feature. You need a way to evaluate it. What's the impact on my schedule? On other features? Can I realistically do it?
So you don't just jump on every new idea, you assess it.
You assess it. Even small changes need a quick check. And throughout this phase, you're constantly updating your project schedule, tracking what you've actually done versus the plan.
And maybe noticing you always underestimate how long modeling takes.
Exactly. Keeping old versions of your schedule, archiving them, can be really insightful for future planning. You learn about your own estimation habits.
That's smart. What else happens in execution and control?
Quality. Using quality checklists as you go. Are things meeting the standard you set? Don't wait till the end to find out your core mechanic feels clunky. Build quality in.
Okay. Checklists for gameplay feel, visual consistency, performance.
And like that, yeah. And you're still managing that budget your time. Are you spending hours polishing one tiny corner while a major feature is broken? That's a time budget issue.
Right. Prioritizing effort.
And you're constantly monitoring and controlling risks. Revisiting that list, seeing if any of those potential problems are actually happening, looking up for new ones. Managed project execution is sort of the umbrella term for overseeing everything as you build and test.
Testing is key here, too.
Hugely.
Yeah.
Getting acceptance and approval of all deliverables, which in UEFN often means playtesting. Get friends, get potential players to try it out, get feedback early and often.
Makes sense. Find the problems before release.
Exactly. And you'll identify and resolve issues, bugs, problems, things that just don't work. Keep an issues log, just a simple list to track them. And keep communicating based on your communications plan. Prepare regular project status reports, even if it's just a quick weekly summary for yourself. Where are we? What's next? What's blocked?
It sounds like a constant cycle of build, test, track, adjust.
It really is. And if you have a team, managing them, keeping everyone accountable. Finally, thinking about managed project implementation and transition. How are you actually going to release this thing? How will you handle updates?
Okay, so we've built, tested, adjusted, maybe pulled some hair out. We get to the end. What's the final phase?
Closure. This is basically formally wrapping things up. Your game is live, or you've hit the main milestone you set out for.
Feels good, I bet.
It does. It involves getting that final acceptance signature from the project sponsor, which, again, if it's just you, might just be acknowledging, okay, I've met the goals for version 1.0.
And then launch, and maybe take a nap.
Maybe. But remember, especially with UEFN, it's often iterative. You release, get feedback, maybe a Fortnite update adds cool new stuff, and you might find yourself looping back to planning or even initiation for the next version or update.
Yeah, that makes total sense, the living platform. Okay, you mentioned defining the creative vision back in planning. Can we dig into that a bit more? How important is that, really?
Oh, it's absolutely fundamental. Your creative vision is the why. It's the North Star for all your decisions. What experience are you trying to create? What feelings should players walk away with?
And it needs to be specific, you said.
Yes, specific and tangible. Vague ideas are hard to build. So what are the key gameplay mechanics? What's the visual style? What's the hook? What makes your UAF thing different from the thousands of others?
So not just a fun parkour map, but maybe a challenging timed parkour map through a collapsing steampunk city with a focus on narrative environmental clues.
Exactly. That gives you so much more direction, and that vision helps you set those SMART goals we talked about. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound.
Right, so a goal might be implement and test the core wall running mechanic by Friday.
Perfect. It connects directly back to your specific vision. Think about how you generate game ideas. You start broad, you have to consciously narrow it down, define the mode, the world, the core mechanics early, but also be prepared for it to evolve a bit.
Evolve how?
Through prototyping and playtesting. You might build something based on your vision, play it, and realize, this bit isn't as fun as I thought, or players are really loving this aspect I hadn't focused on. So you refine the vision based on that feedback. It's iterative.
Okay, so start specific, but be open to refinement based on actually building and testing. Makes sense. Now, all this planning, tracking, risk listing sounds great, but what do people actually use? What are the practical tools or templates?
Good question. And the good news is you really don't need super complex, expensive software, especially when starting out in UEFN. Honestly, simple to-do lists work wonders. Pen and paper, a notes app, whatever works for you. Task management apps like Trello, Asana, even just Microsoft To Do can give you a bit more structured deadlines, progress tracking, assigning tasks if you team up.
Okay, digital lists.
Spreadsheets are amazing too. Don't underestimate a good spreadsheet. You can track tasks, build timelines, even track your time, budget estimate hours, log actual hours per task.
Yeah, I can see that. Columns for tasks, status, estimated time, actual time.
Exactly, things like that. If your project gets bigger, maybe look at basic project management software, something with Gantt charts to visualize the schedule. But start simple. And hey, don't forget UAFN itself. You can use it for visual planning, block out levels, plan flows, even leave notes in the editor.
Ah, using the tool itself for planning. Smart.
And create your own simple templates. A document for your design decisions, why you chose this mechanic. A template for change requests, what's the change, why, what's the impact. A template for logging bugs. Reusable things like that, risk management worksheet, or a basic project schedule template save a ton of time.
Keep it simple, keep it practical, make it work for you. I like it. All right, let's tackle the beast. Time management, especially in UAFN, with updates dropping, needing that polish. How do you juggle it all?
Yeah, time management is tricky, but critical. You're not just building your thing in a vacuum. Fortnite updates happen, UAFN gets new features. You have to account for that potential disruption or learning curve.
So build buffer time into your schedule.
Definitely factor in buffer time. Be realistic about how long things actually take, not just how long you wish they'd take. And that includes time for learning new tools or adapting to changes.
And what about polish? That seems like it could eat up endless time.
It absolutely can, which is why you have to consciously allocate time for it. Polish refining gameplay, visuals, the user experience is what makes an island feel complete and professional. It's crucial for success in Fortnite. Don't treat it as an afterthought you'll tackle on if there's time. Plan for it.
Plan for polish. Okay.
This all ties back to setting realistic deadlines. Understand that sometimes, crunch happens in game dev. But good planning should aim to minimize it. Make it the exception, not the rule.
And breaking things down helps here too, right?
Massively. Big task. Build the village area. Okay, break it down. Model houses, texture houses, place props, set up lighting, script NPC interactions. Suddenly it feels less daunting and you can track progress on the smaller pieces.
Little victories keep you motivated.
Exactly. And maybe try time boxing. Say, I'm spending 2 hours on refining the jump mechanic, then I move on. It forces focus and prevents getting stuck perfecting one tiny thing forever.
Good technique.
And prioritize. What must get done for the core experience to work? Focus on those essential elements first, based on your creative vision. Use that change control process we mentioned to stay flexible when, inevitably, an update throws a wrench in the works or a bug takes longer to fix than expected. Adapt the schedule. Don't just ignore the problem.
So it's this constant blend of planning, realism, breaking things down, prioritizing, and being ready to adapt.
That's the heart of it, really. If you can bring those project management ideas into your UAFN workflow, even just the basics, you're setting yourself up much better to actually finish your projects and bring those cool ideas to life for potentially millions of players.
Okay, let's do a quick wrap-up then. We talked about those 5 phases: initiation, planning, execution and control, and closure, Thinking of them as stages, not rigid steps
Yeah.
for UAFN.
Right, and the huge importance of a clear, specific creative vision and setting those SMART goals to guide you.
We also touched on using practical tools, simple lists, spreadsheets, maybe basic PM software, even UFN itself, and creating templates to stay organized without getting bogged down.
And finally, tackling time management by being realistic, planning for polish and updates, breaking down tasks, prioritizing, and staying flexible.
It really feels like project management isn't some boring corporate thing here, but actually a creative enabler.
That's exactly the way to look at it. It provides the structure so your creativity can actually flourish and reach the finish line effectively.
So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening, especially if you're new to UEFN. How could bringing even just one or two of these ideas, maybe better planning, maybe just tracking your tasks, help you handle the wild ride of UEFN development and make something truly awesome in Fortnite?
Yeah, don't feel you have to implement everything overnight. Start small. Try a simple task list. Try defining your vision more clearly next time. See what works for you and build from there.
Great advice. And there's always more to learn about project management specific to games, maybe something for another time. Thanks for tuning into The Deep Dive.